Welcome back to the deep dive. We often talk about personal growth,
Because
right?
glue.
But what if the most profound, really lasting happiness doesn't come from like external stuff, but from a complete internal shift?
That's a powerful question.
Yeah, so today we're really zeroing in on that,
Right.
exploring how true change might actually be closer than we think,
Yeah.
stemming from deep inside us.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we've gathered some really powerful insights, mainly from the spiritual community Unity Europe.
Okay.
We'll be hearing from voices like Trent Goodlick and Reverend Kudlik. They offer these, well, unique perspectives on struggles we all face.
Like what sort of things?
Like feeling stuck, dealing with resentment, which is huge, and also fear, that often hidden fear.
Right. So our mission today really is to unpack all this, get beyond the surface, find some, I guess, practical strategies, maybe some surprising ways to look at things. The goal is to help you listening cultivate, a deeper contentment, a joy that isn't just based on what's happening around you.
Yeah, built from an internal foundation, something unshakable.
Exactly. Identifying what holds us back and then finding a clear path forward.
Sounds good.
So, okay, let's start with that feeling of being stuck. I think a lot of us know that one.
Oh, definitely.
Trayton Goodlick, he's a respected voice in Unity Europe. He points out that it's not just individuals, it's communities, even whole nations that get stuck in these ruts.
Right. Clinging to things that just aren't working anymore.
Yeah. And it leads to, frustration, anger. He says we often pretend to change, maybe try doing things differently on the surface.
But it doesn't stick.
Exactly. He says we become painfully aware how difficult it is to let go and be somebody different. It's not just doing differently, it's actually being different.
And Goodlick, he really puts his finger on resentment as maybe the core reason we feel stuck.
Resentment of the...
He calls it payback time, describes it as this simmering anger and frustration that just sits under the surface, and it dictates how we respond to, well, everything, and it can come from anywhere, really.
Like personal stuff.
Yeah, individually, maybe, difficult parents, unkindness, but also bigger things.
Societal things.
Yes. He talks about his own experience growing up in socialist Hungary. He felt the system itself generated fear, denied people's true selves, or, entire nations holding on to historical hurts. This internal payback time keeps us looking outside ourselves, waiting for an apology or for something external to change.
That makes so much sense. That internal bitterness just keeps you chained to the past.
Exactly.
Okay, so if resentment is one major block, Reverend Kudlik brings up another big one, fear.
Fear, yes.
And this one, Kudlik says, often flies under the radar. It's tricky.
Why tricky?
Because we apparently learn to cover it up really early in life. We might not even be consciously aware of it. It's generated by thoughts we don't even notice, sort of automatic thoughts. And they lead to these unconscious ways of coping, like a hidden program running everything.
That's a really profound point, isn't it? If fear is so hidden, how do you even start to deal with it?
Good question.
Well, Reverend Kudlik suggests that practices like meditation can actually, in a good way, sort of force us to stay present.
Force us. How so?
By making us sit with everything that's inside, including the fear. It brings it up. Which is why, a lot of people find meditation challenging at first. It brings that buried stuff right to the surface.
Right. Not comfortable, but necessary, maybe?
Necessary for real self-awareness, definitely.
Okay, so we're stuck. Maybe resentful, maybe driven by hidden fears.
Yeah.
What's the way out? Reverend Kudlik talks about wholeness.
Wholeness, yes. A key concept in Unity.
What does that actually mean, though? Is it just, like, feeling okay?
It's deeper than that. In Unity, it means really returning to a state of being contented, genuinely loving life, seeing the good and beauty around you.
And in yourself.
And feeling beautiful yourself, yes. It's about being deeply connected to yourself first, then to others, lovingly, and also to what they call the loving presence, or God.
So it's integration, bringing all the parts together.
Exactly, including that spiritual part, the God self.
Okay, so how do we get there? From bitterness, maybe, to wholeness.
Well, Reverend Kudlik lays out a pretty practical 4-step process. The first step is self-awareness.
Looking inward.
Right. Looking inward, honestly. Acknowledging the denial, the anger, the pain, the stuff we usually blame on the outside world. But it's also, importantly, about finding your strengths, your unique beauty that's often buried under all that bitterness.
Okay, self-awareness first. Then step 2 is forgiveness and letting go. We hear this one a lot.
We do, but the way unity sources talk about it, especially Trent Goodlick, it's different. It's presented as absolutely critical for wholeness, embracing the painful stuff.
Even things passed down, you mean?
Yes, personal experiences, or even things inherited from loved ones. But here's the crucial part, Goodlick's redefinition.
Okay.
He insists forgiveness isn't really about forgiving other people or forgiving history, because he says you cannot do it in the past.
Yeah. So what is it then?
Forgiveness needs to be in the present, and crucially, it's for yourself.
For myself.
Because the resentment lives within me. You are carrying it. So forgiveness is about freeing yourself from that pain of the past, that simmering anger you're holding on to.
Wow, okay. That's a big shift.
It is. And he gives specific ways to do it, like start by forgiving myself for the life I have chosen with all its challenges, pain, difficulty.
Forgiving myself for my life.
Yeah. Then forgiving myself for judging myself. For not being good enough, for not speaking up, for buying into fear, for being too nice or too aggressive. All of it.
That sounds hard.
It is. He calls it a work in progress, something you do daily, not a one-off thing.
Okay, that reframing, making forgiveness about freeing myself, feels really liberating.
It really can be. And as you work through that self-awareness and this kind of self-forgiveness, the third step starts to happen naturally.
Which is?
Being the greater picture. You start to get a new perspective. Seeing yourself as part of a greater tapestry.
Like all the pieces fit somehow.
Exactly. Even the tough experiences become like puzzle pieces that make up the unique person you are. Finding meaning in the whole journey.
Okay. Self-awareness, self-forgiveness, seeing the bigger picture. What's the last step?
The fourth step is gratitude. Actively cultivating gratitude.
Even when things are difficult.
Especially then. The practice is feel the difficulty, move into forgiveness for carrying the resentment about it, and then shift into gratitude. Try to find the positive side. Ask, what is this teaching me? And Reverend Kudlik stresses this whole four-step process is constant. It's daily. It's an in every moment kind of practice, a living thing.
It sounds like a really deep personal journey.
Yeah.
But does it happen like alone, or does community fit in?
Community is actually huge in unity. But first, tied to this, Reverend Kudlik offers this spiritual view on happiness that really challenges how we usually think about it.
Okay. How so?
Well, external things, relationships, stuff, comfort, they bring joy, moments of it.
Sure.
But Kudlik says a true sense of happiness can only be attained through an inner sense of oneness and connectedness. It's pointing to something much, much deeper.
Oneness.
Connectedness. And unity really believes that one of the best ways, the greatest value for understanding yourself, the world, even God, is actually through human relationships. It doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Ah, okay. So community helps with this oneness.
It helps foster the connection. Kudlik talks about a threefold connection for this deep happiness. First, connecting to yourself, seeing yourself as whole, loving yourself.
Right.
Second, connecting to your higher self, which they see as intrinsically part of God.
Okay.
And then third, reaching even higher into oneness with the divine presence.
That sounds quite profound. How do you actually do that? Especially if, going back to Reverend Kudlik, fear is still lurking around.
Right. It makes you think back to walking through fear, not around it.
Exactly. Are they connected? Does that spiritual connection help face the fear?
Absolutely. They're completely intertwined. That deep connection, that feeling of security you get from experiencing God's presence, it's often found by sitting in the silence.
Meditation, prayer again.
Yes. Consistent meditation, prayer, regular practice, sometimes for longer stretches. Reverend Kudlik says this presence is way beyond the mind. It's an energy.
An energy that helps you walk through fear.
Exactly. Supports you in facing it, not being stopped by it. And the result, the ultimate outcome, is this profound happiness that's way beyond what material stuff can give. It's described as freedom or alignment or feeling accepted and embraced beyond measures.
Accepted and embraced. Like unconditionally.
Unconditionally loved, an experience that doesn't depend on anything outside you.
And unity itself, for people who don't know, Pastor Kudlik describes it as, what, a non-denominational and non-religious spiritual community.
That's right. Very open, welcoming everyone, whatever their background, religious or spiritual or none. It's not about converting anyone.
It's more about providing the space for this inner journey.
Exactly that. They focus on building a supportive community, helping people find their own unique spiritual path, connect with themselves, and connect with that loving energy they call God. The belief really is that we learn most about ourselves and the divine through relating to each other.
Wow. Okay, what a journey we've covered today. We started with that, universal feeling of being stuck, maybe weighed down by resentment, held back by fear we don't even see. Then we explored unity's path to wholeness, starting with that crucial self-awareness, then the really powerful idea of self-forgiveness to let go of resentment, and seeing our lives as part of a bigger picture.
The tapestry idea.
Yeah, the tapestry. And finally, how that deeper spiritual connection, built through things like meditation and prayer, helps us face fear and unlocks a kind of happiness that isn't tied to external things, moving from bitterness to, well, unconditional joy.
It's quite a map for transformation. So maybe a final thought for you listening as you reflect on all this. If true, lasting happiness, real change, genuinely comes from within, by releasing these internal blocks, resentment, fear, and by cultivating that deeper spiritual connection.
Yeah.
What single step could you take today? Just one small thing to look inward, maybe begin your own journey of self-forgiveness, or even just try a few moments of mindful presence. Just something to consider.